Hello, I'm Brian Foster, and today I'm talking about Spiritism. And today I'm going to talk about Spiritism in response to questions I have from people who are interested in learning about Spiritism. Before I begin, let's have a prayer. Dear Jesus, please give us all the gift of receiving inspiration and first filtering our inspirations through our conscience to make sure they are good inspirations from higher and superior spirits. Please let us have the ability to act upon those inspirations that will put us on the path to righteousness and to goodness and to learning in our life as it is pre planned by our wonderful spirit guardians and guides in the spirit world. Amen. So, if you are interested in about Spiritism, I suggest you go to my site, nwspiritism.com. In it, I have Spiritism 101, The Third Revelation, free on PDF. I also have it on Kindle, paperback, and in audible format, but you can download it free on PDF or in French also. The other thing I would suggest you do is once you get like a quick overview of Spiritism, is to read the Spirit's book, codified by Allan Kardec. This is the headwaters of the third revelation, the first being from Moses, the second Jesus Christ New Testament, and the third in the 1850s by codified by Allan Kardec and led the spirits who revealed all this information about the spirit world, led by the Spirit of Truth as promised in the New Testament by Jesus Christ. Let me be sure too that Spiritism is also called Christian Spiritism. Jesus Christ is our leader. He is what we believe is a perfect example of a pure spirit. Jesus Christ is the governor, the CEO, the principal, everything, the leader, the father of this planet. And we recognize that under the leadership of Jesus, everything happens here on this planet called Earth, which is in reality a campus created for us to improve our spirituality, our maturity quotient, to gain knowledge and wisdom, and to rip out the old primitive emotions, hate, envy, selfishness, pride, and replace those with more advanced emotions, love, fraternity, charity, and honesty, to name a few. So therefore, if you would like to learn more about Spiritism, I suggest you type in Allan Kardec, space PDF, in whatever search engine you like, and you will find his books in free on PDF at some sites. They're all over the place. So the Spirits book I would read first. If you're interested in communication spirits, the Mediums book, and then the Gospel according to Spiritism. Also, if you go to Facebook, there's on my site, nwspiritism.com, I have a Facebook site. And more, we are getting a lot of other Spiritist groups and centers who are creating lessons in Spiritism, who are creating lessons in becoming a medium, which is sorely needed in the English-speaking world because there's not that many around in sites in the English-speaking world so far. So I would say that join the Facebook site that's listed on my blog site, and you'll see a lot of good resources. And also then listen to Kardec Radio, because Kardec Radio has like morning prayers and all sorts of interesting information. And you can download that app, Kardec, K-A-R, I'm sorry, D-E-C. Download on your Apple or Android phone. You can listen to it 24 hours a day. Now, let's begin. This is Q&A about Spiritism. So if you have a question, please type that in the comments section and I will get to that. If no one has any questions, I will start on questions sent to me by readers. And the way they do that, if they've seen like a Q&A or one of my videos, they put a comment in my video. I always get notified when I get comments. I'll take it and I'll cut and paste it and put it into this list of questions. So let's begin. Here we go. Put this here. Okay. This is a question is, if spiritualism is the belief that the spirits of the dead exist and both have the ability and inclination to communicate with the living, and we prove it through mediums and so on, what is the difference between spiritualism and spiritism? Well, that is a great question. So let me attempt to answer that. Let me have some water first. Excuse me. Spiritualism, as generally defined, is a belief in the spirit world, as you wrote, where mediums communicate with spirits and spirits continue to evolve in the spirit plane, and where physical humans transfer to after death. Spiritualism is a broad umbrella, whereas Spiritism is a definite doctrine, not a religion. It is a doctrine which espouses more concrete ideas about the processes of the spirit world, about reincarnation and karma, and so forth. Communications about Spiritism comes from Spiritist trained mediums. Therefore, the doctrine is continually enhanced, and more information about our life here and in the spirit world is revealed. Now, Spiritism is a subgroup within Spiritualism. And Spiritualism has many different aspects and groups covered under the broad definition of life after death. It covers such group as the National Spiritist Association of Churches, NSAC, which believes in the spirit world and the afterlife, but is still uncertain about the concept of reincarnation. In the Caribbean and other areas, there is the White Table, Mesa Blanca, where trances and dances and communications with spirits are frequent. Similar groups are in many parts of the world. Candomblé is prevalent in Brazil, where communication with spirits and possession by spirits is practiced. And these can be pretty low spirits, but they're still wonderful people. In these spiritualist groups, I've not detected, this is, I think, the main difference. I have not detected the rigor of identifying higher spirits that is an important part of Spiritism. Hence, messages from spirits may vary widely in other groups as opposed to the consistent level of communication concerning moral discourses and information about the organization and processes of the spirit world in order for us to learn more and decide for ourselves how we should prioritize our life. This lack of discernment in evaluating the level, wisdom, and knowledge coming from a spirit is one of the major differences between Spiritism and Spiritualism. Although mistakes are certainly made within Spiritism, nevertheless, over time, any misdirection promoted by a spirit is usually identified, as opposed to mediums in spiritualist groups, who may unknowingly promote communications from spirits, mistaken in their knowledge about the spirit world, since they exist on a lower level and have an incomplete understanding of the spirit universe. An example of this is the book Urantia, which purports to explain the complete organization of the spirit world and the history of the earth. Spiritist communications have revealed the book of Urantia to be an incorrect interpretation of the spirit universe. The book is certainly interesting and entertaining and has many worthwhile concepts, but it seems to be a product from a spirit who did not have a valid understanding of the spirit world. And the medium who first receive the messages from a certain spirit about the book to create the book Urantia wasn't schooled in the Spiritist doctrine, and therefore had no base upon which to evaluate what he was told. And that is, of course, again, to reiterate, that's the main difference. I have talked to mediums who, like, one medium will talk to a spiritualist medium, and they say, well, come and help me channel this spirit. And the Spiritist medium, or someone who knows about Spiritism, say, well, have you identified the spirit? Who is the spirit? What kind of level are they on? And of course, the other medium gets mad because they're so, and I don't blame them, they get so excited that they're talking to a spirit. And that's why I think some spiritualists just assume that if you talk to a spirit, that spirit is of grander knowledge, higher than you, and knows the mysteries of the world. And of course, Spiritism tells us that when we pass over, we are who we were. We don't turn into enlightened intellectuals that know everything and understand God and the whole actions of the spirit world. Many spirits are not on any levels of heaven, which spiritualists talk to, and they give, they sometimes they're amusing and sometimes they're misdirecting, and other times they really think they give their best idea of the concepts, but they don't know. So that's what we should keep in mind. So in ending, Spiritism tells us that the main tenets of Spiritism will someday be adopted by the world's main religions. This shall help usher in a new understanding of the consequences of actions via the recognition of reincarnation and karma. by people and shall result in a kinder, more just world. As an example, I saw a survey where they said that 25% of religious people in the United States believe in reincarnation. How interesting. I didn't know it was that high. That just shows you that many people have this innate feeling that they've had other lives or they're here for a purpose, and that if the actions you take in one life should not determine the eternity ahead of you. Just think about a person born into a horrible family, taught horrible things, had horrible examples, and was led into a life of crime. Now, granted, some people can overcome that, and God bless them, but many people can't. And those people are usually more immature spirits. And that's why what Spiritism tells us is we should forgive everyone. Doesn't mean they can't go to jail, but we should forgive everyone because everyone is at different levels of spiritual maturity, and some still have the primitive emotions deep within them, and other people have worked hard in replacing those primitive emotions with advanced civilized emotions. Okay, I hope that helped answer that question. Again, if you would like to ask questions, please put that in the comment sections below, and I'll go right to your question first. Okay. Next question. Are crystals, candles, signals, etc. also part of Spiritism? I've heard many famous friends and mediums in my family talk about how they use crystals, candles, receive signals from the other side, etc. Is it Spiritism, Spiritualism, Esotericism? And if it is Esotericism, is Esotericism also part of Spiritualism? Thanks. Esotericism. So, yes, Spiritism will use crystals, candles. Now, I'm not sure what type of signals you're talking about, but there are symbols we use. But there's nothing we don't like, because symbology is important in the spirit world. The cross is a very important symbol, and it means a lot. And it means something to the other spirits who see that in the spirit world. And then crystals, as an example, my wife was given a message by a medium that she should do intonation of the rosary every night, and they told her what type of rosary with what type of stone she should buy. So there's a message right from the spirit world say, buy this type of stone. So yes, stones and those things are important. They help the concentration. And also, as an example, these are things that help improve our focus and improve the quality of the messages coming through. So one of the spirits, if you ever saw a picture of let me hide this for a second, of Chico Xavier when he's psychographing, he goes like this, and he's got his hand on his head, and he's psychographing on a piece of paper. And one of the spirits told the Reverend G. Owen, said, look, if you want to help our communication, put your hand on your head, and he goes, and that creates some sort of electrical feedback system. I'm not quite sure. And it helps our communication to you, because all communication comes through the pineal gland, which it's amazing. I'm not a medium, and I've talked to mediums, and this one medium, whenever we talk and we say goodbye, he always kisses on my forehead and says, I hope this grows your pineal gland. So I don't know. I think I'm a lost cause on that, but who knows? So those type of things do make a difference, and it's not used for any type of, let's say, obsessive religious, like an icon or something like that. It's just used as a vehicle, as a way to focus, and those type of things, which I think it's other used in spiritualism as terrorism too. Okay. Let's go down here a bit. Then let's go. Next question, unless I have any questions from our viewers. How can the biblical book of Revelation be interpreted? Is it an image of the times? Is it obsolete for our times? Are there truths that can be applied to our generation? Now, there is a marvelous whole chapter about the book of Revelation and what it meant, but in the book, On the Way to the Light. It's written by the Spirit Emmanuel, psychographed by Chico C. Xavier. You can look him up as Francisco C. Xavier. In fact, if you go to my site, nwspiritism.com, and click on the picture of Allan Kardec in the upper right-hand corner, it'll take you to the FEB bookstore. You can find the book On the Way to the Light. The book is wonderful because it reviews all the way from the formation of the solar system, and it shows you the whole history of how it's been guided by the spirit world. Oh, good. Oh, maybe before I finish this one, let me show you this. I follow your videos and I just recently joined a live Zoom class that will be happening every Saturday. I got the invitation from one of the groups on your Facebook site. See, there you go. So there's lots of wonderful, more resources and opportunities to learn about mediumship, learn about spiritism. I get a lot of questions. Okay, how do I get into spiritism? Because I do know it is hard because there's not that many spiritist centers in the English-speaking world. There's probably plenty of spiritism, maybe not plenty, but there's adequate number of spiritism centers in Brazil, which is kind of the leader of this, and still some in Europe and France. But unfortunately, many of the ones like in the English-speaking world are few and far between, and so, but there's a lot of wonderful people that have tried them and trying to hold them and have them in English. So if you can, try and join one of those if you're close. Let me go here. Oh, it says I'm a medium, but I'm very careful. It's not something I want to do on my own. Yes, and that is perfect advice, and that's a perfect rational thing. Is don't do it on your own. And in spiritist centers in Brazil, they'll go through like a year of going through, because why do they have to be trained? There's many good reasons. Is first of all, a spirit will communicate to the level of the spirit of the same level. So if you are a talented medium, but you exist on a kind of a lower level with your primitive emotions, right? You're going to talk to lower level spirits. Whereas if you learn about spiritism, learn about love and the spirit world and fraternity and charity, you'll have higher spirits come talk to you. But even then, sometimes you'll have lower spirits try to talk to you, and that's why you have to learn how to filter out and recognize inferior spirits. And as Allan Kardec put in his Mediums, the Book of Medium, or the Mediums book, I always get that wrong, will teach you how to recognize spirits. And I think these groups will do the same. In fact, let me bring up let me finish this other question first. Get to Know Spiritism is the name of the group, and it is here in the USA. So that's perfect. So look for that group, Get to Know Spiritism. And they'll have Zoom classes, which are wonderful because you can all see each other. And they're not as good as being in person, but given our logistical difficulty and the size of the United States and the few number of spiritist centers, it's a wonderful tool to use. So I really think everyone should use it. In fact, let me bring up, before I go for this, let me hide this for a second. Let me bring up my the Facebook site so people can know, because I think that's important for people to see. Let me get the screen right here, because there is a lot of okay, here it is. There are a lot of resources here, and it's getting more all the time, which I'm really happy to. So if you see this, it's called Spiritism, the Spirit World Around Us, and it's Facebook group Spiritus. And you'll see, can't do it there. You'll see that there's a Spiritist Psychological Society talking about things. There is Geraldo Lemos Neto always. I mean, Geraldo was a assistant to Chico Xavier. Everything he says is just it's great. He's got the inside story for a lot of this stuff, so he's good. Oh, and here it is: Get to Know Spiritism, and this is a posted video playlist to know Spiritism. So again, and he's just a wonderful guy. So I recommend some of his lectures. You could look up his name, and I refer to some of his lectures, even in my books, because he gives good information. Of course, here's one of my things, and then here's another. So there's a lot of information. Here's Carolina Correa, wonderful woman, gives us a live address. So there are things in here. And then if you go look, the other thing is to look at, where's the file section? Let me see if I can find this. Files. So I have a lot of files downloaded on this. And some people do things as Through the Mist, the book, 5 Cynical Articles, Universal Message, Spiritism in the French, Spiritism 101 in English, Self-Knowledge, Self-Awareness, all sorts of interesting documents that you can download yourself. And if you have a document you like, you can certainly upload it here in this file section. So anyways, I just wanted to give everyone a quick peek at this, because I think it gives you, there's a lot there, and I think it would help you a lot. So that's in Facebook site. Okay, I will kill that. Let me get back to the questions. Oh, Kardec. Well, is that the name? Kardec Radio. So Kardec Radio. Oh, wait, I did that too quick. Okay, here's people. The podcasts from Kardec Radio are also very helpful. So Kardec Radio, you can download that. You can also just type in Kardec Radio in your search engine, but also you can go to your Android or your Apple phone and just find the app Kardec Radio, and you can listen to it 24 hours a day. And then here's the name of the group that helps is the Light of the Soul Christian Spiritist Center. Yes. And is that the name Kardec? Yes, that is the name Kardec Radio. KARDEC space radio. And you'll find it. And you can also find all the previous podcasts. If you go to on the internet and type in Kardec Radio, you'll find the site, and it has all sorts of previous information. Okay. Physical mediumship. Is it the mixing of universal fluid together with ectoplasm that helps to create and animate this phenomenon? Yes. I mean, first of all, everything is created with universal fluid. That is the headwaters of everything. And universal fluid is used by mediums, by spirits, I should say, by spirits who are creating anything they want, right? So there are all sorts of when they use your mind, because right, thought is action in the spirit world. Let me finish this here. Okay, thought is action in the spirit world. You can create, and you use universal fluid, use it with different vibrations and density and so forth, with things I don't understand completely, and to create whatever you want to create. So the mixing of universal fluid actually then creates the ectoplasm. And it's kind of more, I think a better way of saying that is using a spirit will use universal fluid to then combine with the fluid of the medium to create ectoplasm. And in fact, that's kind of the way pass in the spirits. And so when someone's giving you a pass, right? So a pass is when, like, you're sitting down like this, and there's a medium in front of you going like this. They don't touch you, right? But they wave their hands over you. And what happens is a spirit stands behind them, and I think about the same thing happens with ectoplasm. And it uses universal fluid. Then it uses as a filter that medium to create customized fluid and vibrations to help that person correct any defects or disharmony that they may have. So yes, the answer is yes to that. Okay, let me come up here. Okay. Oh, also your blog with all the links is great, and really enjoyed the Anthony Borgia book Life and the World Unseen. Yeah, so I also have, the blog which I put down here, which is nwspiritism.com. That has articles I have links to all sorts of things. So I would explore that. So there's resources out here to get you started, right? And in fact, I should probably show. That's a great idea. I should show that. I should show that also. As we're kind of going through how to get resources, which I think is important for people. I mean, it is very important for people to know these things. So let me show that. Okay, so here is. Okay, so I'm gonna hide. So here is my blog, NW Spiritism. Of course, the blog is nwspiritism.com. And what I do is I have a new article every day here. You can also sign up, follow it. You can follow that, and it will send you a notice that, or you can also get me. And here you can go to my Substack. I have a Substack page. I have a Rumble channel, a BitChute channel, as well as a YouTube channel. You can always sign up. Here's a picture of Allan Kardec that takes you to the FEB bookstore. And then I've got other links, the Spirits book in audio format, live streaming, and then all my books on the right-hand side. And then if you look up on the top, I have articles of reincarnation. So I've got a whole section and different articles of reincarnation. I also have links to my book on reincarnation. And so there's just a lot of information that you can get. How do you map your trials on Earth, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully there are a lot of things you can. Hopefully this gives everyone a good set of resources to use. Okay, let me get back up here now. Okay, and then here is your videos are very helpful. That's on my YouTube channel, and my Rumble are BitChute. Sometimes I watch them later, but they are always helpful. Good. So I have lots of them. I think I have more than 300 or almost that. And if you like books in audible format, I have books in audible format, but also I'll go through some of my books. I'll go through chapter by chapter on my YouTube. So go on my YouTube channel and look at the playlist, and you'll see all these different playlists with different categories. You'll see like a how to live playlist. And I'll go through every chapter of how to live. So you can do these things. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can learn from them. So thank you very much for that. Okay, here's a question. Is there any mention of a healing process that makes you feel like you are in a pool of gelatin? I was taking care of a friend with COVID. I was super tired and drained. I know. And I don't know of a certain healing process. I've been to healing mediums, and I do feel the effect, and I know wonderful stories, but I don't know of a healing process per se. I do know that I think that if you meditate and pray and ask for help in recovering, and ask for help for your friend to recover, that hopefully you'll be given some energy. But the spirit world did tell us about this thing that's around, and said that the main thing is don't be afraid of it. Those who have faith and those who are positive will be fine. There will be a small subset, they said, of people who will pass away, and that is for the reason The people who aren't afraid, the people who are positive, the people who are spiritual, they are the ones with the most are force against this, against any type of illness. The people who do are the ones that the spirit world said, look, we want to bring some people back because we want to prepare them for the next reincarnation because we have things for them to do. So anyway, I thought I'd tell you that. It's very interesting what the spirits tell us. Because when I came home, as I was falling asleep, I felt like I was in jello. It moved me and relaxed me. I truly believe that is why I didn't get sick at the time. I called on dear Chico Xavier for help. There you go. So I knew this one lady who was kind of given like on consecutive nights. She had these very basic problems with her body and her immune system. And then, she kept asking for help. And then it was like, I forgot how many consecutive nights. It was one night after another. She felt like she was just being operated on by spirits. And they would do things to her, and then she like feel great pain, and then she feel okay. Next day she'd feel a little bit better. Then next night she would, feel like, she kind of, because she was a medium. And then she would feel these spirits all around her doing stuff. And then she like, oh, it was just amazing. So yes, you do get operated on. You do get healed. In fact, on any type of religious person who asks for help, they will come and help them. So absolutely. And that's a good idea, asking for Chico for help. Chico's just a wonderful person. Okay. Craig, pure spirits no longer need or use universal fluid. So is it true to say they are now using pure divine spirit energy to complete their service to the spirit kind? Now, my interpretation of universal fluid is that is the basic building block of the spirit universe. So therefore, I say that everyone uses universal fluid who is within the spirit universe. God is without and within, so he probably part uses, part not. But according to Spiritism, and what I know is that universal fluid is the building block of everything, and so all elements is based upon universal fluid. And so this is what's interesting. So it depends how you look at the spirit world. You can also look at the spirit world as a logical, extremely complex, live database, dynamic database with encapsulated personalities and characters. That's us, right? Who can travel through the database as they will. Now, is that creative universal fluid or something else? And do we use the logical format, what we say is the attribute of universal fluid, to create what we want within that database? So I don't know. I mean, you can look at it different ways. So I understand what you're saying, but as far as Spiritism says, everyone utilizes universal fluid. But you can start getting to the next higher level of logic, and also even spirits say, look, after all these levels of heaven, and we don't know the levels of heaven above the earth, right? Because there's the levels of heaven around the earth, and there's levels of heaven above the earth, either solar systems, constellations, etc., galaxies. He goes, and then above these level of heavens, there's other things, maybe more dimensions, and there's they call it a sublimity, a sublime area where you're still unique personality, but you swim in this ocean of sublimity. And maybe that's what we're talking about when they wouldn't call them pure spirits, because pure spirits are still here on earth and in heaven, but even higher, maybe that is what they're talking about. So I don't know. It's a good question. Okay, let me get back to there's a question I was answering and I never answered it. Oh, can the biblical book of Revelation be interpreted? So as I was saying, in the book On the Way to the Light by the Spirit Emmanuel, tells us about the whole formation of the earth, everything. And it tells us the the races that came down and kind of were reincarnated here to help move the earth to a higher level. Now, on the part of the Revelation, that was with John, and what they say is John did go up into heaven. Now, John, and I'll just give you some little things. So yes, it can be interpreted. It does mean things. In fact, let me give you the kind of the highlight there. And he said, now some things John did not really understand, which, I mean, of course, right? Who's going to understand all these things? Not me, that's for sure. Let me get this here. Nope. Okay. Let me bring this up here so I can get you a picture of the On the Way to the Light. Okay, let me share this screen. I'm doing a lot of sharing screens here. Okay, I'm still okay. Here we go. Let's bring that here. So for those on my podcast, I bring this podcast, I'm now going to my website, nwspiritism.com. I'm going to the Spiritism section, and I am going to, oops, don't want to do that, to the part of book reviews. So here is On the Way to the Light. There's a picture of the book. And you can get that by clicking the picture of Allan Kardec, and it'll take you to the FEB bookstore. Now, On the Way to the Light, just to me, that was like one of the first, after the Spirits book, the books by Allan Kardec. It's just amazing. And so it was psychographed in 1936. And what it did is it talked all about the whole history of the world, how they guided us, how they, the Egyptians came in from the Capella system, the Egyptians, the Aryans, the Jews, all sorts of different people. There's the Egyptians, the Aryans in India. Then there's the all this. It's just telling us this whole thing. Who where the Romans were, what they did with the Romans, et cetera, et cetera. So I would recommend this book, and this just shows you a little bit of, and then how the Renaissance was created. They reincarnated the best sculptors and artists and authors from Athens and Rome, and they plopped them in the Renaissance. And that's how they just had these. This shows you that how the spirit world can guide and manipulate the world, right? Because if you have a chessboard and your chess pieces come on, but your chess pieces can come on and off, right? They come off, they come on, and you've got your favorite bishop or rook or queen. You can keep putting them back on the chessboard, right? Every 100 years or so, per se, and put them in a position of responsibility and power, and you can start moving the earth in the way you want. It's not always successful. There are certainly failures, but eventually you'll get the earth moved to where you want it to go. So this is how it's done. So anyway, I just go through a lot of this and what it means. So I would recommend, to go to this site. You'll learn a lot on Spiritism, and it may be of interest to those people. Oh, and while I'm here, let me go to my YouTube channel, and I want to show you the playlist. I know I'm going off on tangents today, but that's okay. Your channel, I don't know what all this stuff is. Oh, it says I'm live. Okay, so here, if you go to playlist, here are my playlists. Mechanics of the Spirit Realm, Through the Mist. And so and then, the Spiritist Review, things I do, which I do every Sunday. Question and answers about Spiritism, I record those. Interpretation of the New Testament, I have those there. So all chapters of the New Testament. Evolution of Two Worlds, that was a a book I went through. I Wander in the Spirit Lands. I think that was the Borgia book. Violets on the Window. So I have for each YouTube video I did, I put them in here. Gone West, which, oh my God, a great one. The Spirits book, I have every chapter in the Spirits book there. Dreams, how to interpret dreams, what think, current spirit communications, Spiritism Musings, Spiritism 101, how to live inner peace with Spiritism. So here's 25 chapters. There's a video on each chapter. Near-death experiences, how we're guided by spirits, the whole book, Spiritism Explored and Explained. So you can just go through and just do a lot of that. So this, hopefully that will give you a lot of information. Okay, now, I'm sorry, I keep going. I go back to my questions. So I still haven't answered, is there the book of Revelation? So given all that, the book of Revelation is important. Now, what they've said is a lot of the things in the book of Revelation has already happened. And a lot of people ask about the number 666. And what Emmanuel says is that the 666 really stands for the Pope. And that the Pope, if you take the three descriptions of the Pope, three titles of the Pope that were written in a Latin script, not in Greek, and you use the Latin letters and you make them numbers, which I did do this, you get the number 666 by putting them in different positions. So I thought that was interesting. So yes, and there are truths that can be applied to our generation, but the beast is the Pope. And what they said, and I forgot how many months, it was like 30 months or something, the beast would reign. And actually, if you take each month is for 30 years or something like that, it was like 640 years or some number. I don't remember, so don't quote me on this. I have to go back and read it. And it took from where they established the Pope in around 6 something AD to the 18 something, when the Pope said, "Yeah, I'm not I am infallible. I'm not infallible, I should say." And that was that period of time. So a lot of hidden meanings in there. So I would recommend, if you really want to understand the book of Revelation, I would read that book. It kind of gives you some quirks, but there's also, there's still things happening. And it just shows you how the spirit world showed John and says, okay, here's the things that are happening. And of course, when he had all these, it's like Nostradamus, when he saw these strange, airplanes and helicopters and weapons of mass destruction. How do you interpret that when you have no idea, right? When you've seen javelins and swords, but you've never seen what we're going through now. So it's not easy. So yes. So I suggest that if you're interested in that, read that and see what you get from it. But I would look at I would go to my article on the apocalypse. That is, I think it's also a video too, and I would look at that video because that will tell you more about what I believe the apocalypse is and what it means, and that that will certainly help. And I'd go to my blog site nwspiritism.com and look up what the apocalypse was. Okay, next question. When a spirit is lost or in the abyss, which is like a type of purgatory, right? There's no hell, there's no eternal damnation. How can they get out, or how do they transition to heaven after they repent? Or do they have to be fully purified? And I've been going through like that one marvelous book, A Wander in the Spirit Lands and Gone West, where they talk about being in the lower zone and the dark abyss and how they help people. And there's also another wonderful book in one of the series of books by Chico Xavier, but it's by the Spirit Andre Luis, called Liberation. And they go down into this dark abyss and they talk to people. So there's lots of stories of this. So basically what happens is, if you're a spirit down in the abyss, and remember that the law of affinity places like with like. So if you're a criminal and a pickpocket, you're like other petty criminals. If you're like this horrible dictator and you like to use and abuse people, well, then you're right with others that use and abuse you. Spirit world uses evil to combat evil. So if you're that spirit like that who likes to be mean and use people, and now you're in this atmosphere where, oh my God, people are mean to me and they use me. Well, eventually, and this is how spirit gets out, eventually they say, I don't like this. This is not the way to be. Jesus Christ, right? Please help me. And they get on their knees or whatever, and they ask for help. And they ask for help truly, right? And not fake, right? Because the spirit world knows, right? What you are on the inside, you show on the outside in the spirit world. So what will happen is they'll have many spirit agents who will go around the lower zone, the dark abyss, and this person will pray and say, "Please help me, Jesus." And then one of these agents will say, "Go to this little outpost or this city and talk to this person." So they'll come and they'll say, "Yeah, do you want to get out of here? Are you serious? Are you sincere?" And they said, "Yes." Okay, well then follow me. And a lot of them, there are gangs of spirits that try and stop them, right? Low spirits, you're not going to leave here, and then they'll usually get help getting out. So, but it's hard because as a spirit rises, even within the dark abyss and within the lower zone, they feel that the weight of the wrongs, and their conscience becomes more lively and stronger, and they feel the weight of what they've done wrong, and it's just painful. They feel the pain of the wrongs they've done, real pain, and they have to struggle up, and they'll have outposts within the dark abyss. So they'll have outposts where they'll stay for who knows how long, months, years, and they will be taught what they are, who they are, how to be better, right? How to be a better person. And then they'll go, and then they'll be said, okay, now as part of this outpost, a lot of times they'll be said, okay, we're helping you. Now you have to go out and help someone else. In fact, I read one where a spirit says, okay, you can come into this outpost, we're going to help you, but then you've got to bring back 2 other people. Very smart, right? They'll use them to help other people within this horrible area. And then they'll rise to a higher outpost, to maybe to the lower zone, etc. There is this one great book called Paul and Albert by the Reverend G. Val Owen, very short book. And actually, I talk about it and review it and actually explain it in my book, Heaven and Below, where Paul was this doctor in London, and he died, and he ended up in this like shack with some other people in there, and he goes, "Oh, who are these people? Was I kidnapped?" And he saw, a couple women and a guy, and he found out the women were women that he took advantage of when he was younger, and the guy is a guy that he was really mean to. He actually was trying to seduce this guy's wife. The guy had his nose broken, and Paul, the doctor, the guy's name was Albert, actually set the guy's nose wrong to make him ugly so his wife would reject him. Pretty bad. So now you know why he ended up where he was. And so then his guardian angel came and said, okay, Paul, you're here. You're here because the way you've acted, because you cared more about money than your patients. And look what you did to Paul. And Paul goes, well, I forgive you, but I'm here to help because I've learned to be, I'm trying to learn to be a better person. I'm still here in this place, but I've been waiting for you. So Paul, of course, who knew everything better than anybody else, rejected all that. And so he wandered down lower into the dark abyss. Went through torture. It's an amazing story. Finally, he had enough, and he started coming back up. And who was there waiting for him? It was Paul. And then they went to this little church, and this is kind of on the boundary of the lower of the dark abyss, right? And they'll have this little church, and the people will come there, and they'll have higher spirits come, and they'll give a talk, right, for people who are interested in, do you want to rise? And they went to this. They said, I think we're both ready. And so they said, okay, then go up the path. There's a path up the mountain. Now, if you are a lower spirit and you're trying to walk that path up the mountain, you can't do it because you're too dense, right? Because the higher your spiritual quotient, your spiritual level is, the less dense you are, the more energy, less matter. And as you go from the lower level to the higher level, it gets too bright and you can't do it. Now, these two started walking up, and they got further than they ever had before. Now, as they were getting there, Paul's guardian angel came and said, well, I see you two are on your way, right? She's just a wonderful lady. And she goes, do you notice anything different? And they go, no. He goes, well, and she was pretty funny because look at yourselves. And their clothes had gotten better. Paul, who was, well-built, good-looking guy, had kind of shrunk in the lower zone because that's how he was inside. He had flexed out and gotten more to his normal look and model of physique. And so did Albert, of course, too. So then she goes, okay, continue on. And they continue on, and they get to this outpost. Now, to them, they thought it was heaven, right? It really wasn't heaven, but it was like to them. In contrast, because everything's always in relationship to something else, right? It was heaven. And they got to this, with beautiful buildings, right? Because the buildings and the landscape, it's full of dead bushes and misshapen trees and in these lower zones. But in this outpost, it was green. There was a gazebo in the middle. There was nice houses, kind of your idyllic view of a Victorian village or something. And of course, Paul was so excited because then his wife came to meet him, which was very special for him. So they do transition, but maybe not to heaven, but the lower parts. But then they transition, and they get higher and higher. I'll give you one more example. So you don't have to be fully purified to answer your question right off the bat, because I don't want to keep anybody suspense. But it's a process, right? And this is where the logic of the spirit world is just. I mean, there's no like boom, you're a pure spirit, or boom, you're going to go up to a level. It's all like, oh no, it's up to you. It's, you've got to improve yourself. You've got to study. You have to decide you want to be better. It's all about you motivating yourself. It goes down to the basic question that I get all the time is, why doesn't God just come and tell us that he's a God, and Jesus tells us that there's Jesus? Because it would be order imposed from above. That's not what the spirit world wants, especially when you go in the spirit world and thought is action. They want you to impose your own order and you to have this self-discipline that is par excellence, right? It's like any company. Who do they want to hire? They want to hire someone who's intellectually curious, self-disciplined, honest, right? Now, I'll be, sarcastic a little bit here. In the higher ranks of a lot of American corporations, they don't want that. But let's take the perfect view. They want someone like that. They want someone who's going to drive themselves and who's going to just do the best for everybody. That's the idyllic view. That's what the spirit world wants. And they don't get that. You don't get that from saying you have to be good, otherwise you're gonna regret it. Well, okay, I'll be good, but then as soon as they see an opportunity not to be good, or they think not good thoughts. Well, that doesn't work in the spirit world. You have to be good, and you have to. You're on Earth to rewire your brain. Okay, let me give you another example. There was this wonderful spirit called Shonar. And Shinar was in charge of an area of heaven where probably boundaries of the lower zone, where people from the lower zone would walk up and start trying to get into heaven. But a lot of these spirits that kind of ended up in his domain or his territory of influence, his sphere of influence, were still kind of rebellious. They wanted help, but they were still kind of rebellious. So he has this outpost there, right? Like this castle. And his castle inside is just beautiful. Fountains, greenery, all that. Outside, rough rock, everything. And there's spirits outside. He goes to help this. He gets a message saying, these spirits want help. So what he does is, and he has spirits working for him, right? A lot of these people who've been in those things, they go and they work for him. He says, and this one woman spirit says, I have to go to this place, and someone's asking for help. He goes, okay, I'll come with you. So he went with her. He didn't show himself. He still remained hidden because he can make himself less dense so they can't tell. And he talked to these two spirits and said, no, we're ready to move up. And then this one spirit says, I want to move up, but I want to help this one woman who helped me when I was trying to get up, but now she's being trapped by the blacksmith. He's just a big, mean old guy. And she goes, okay, let's go to the blacksmith and let's try and take this woman. And Sonar still hasn't shown himself. They go, these two guys and this woman spirit, and they go up to, and there's this blacksmith around with like a poultry fire, and there's other spirits sitting around the fire. And she goes, I want that woman you have in that hut over there, because he's been taking these poor women and kind of using them, entrapping them, dominating them. And he goes, no, you're not. And then Shonar made himself visible and says, what? I'm saying this not very as well as I could. He goes, look, and then, well, no, before Shonar showed up, he takes a stick and he rushes the woman spirit. Of course, he couldn't harm her because she's superior. But the other two spirits pushed the blacksmith back and made him fall down. And then he got mad. He said, oh, go ahead and take her, you cowards. You're right. He said all these things, but never come back. And then Shonar showed up and said, do you really mean that? And he says, he goes, I don't know. He goes, I'm not a good person. I'm a horrible person. And I know that I deserve what I got. So they take the woman out from the hut and they rescue her and they take her to the castle. So Shanar's in the castle, and at some time later, Spirit comes and says, there's a guy that wants to speak to you outside the castle gates. He goes, oh, okay, let's look. And he goes outside the gates, and there's the blacksmith. The blacksmith says, I said many bad things to you, but I think I really do want to change. I want to start the process of being a better person. He goes, well, why don't you come into the castle? Let's talk. He goes, no. I go, I want to go help people where I'm at right now. But I just wanted to tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring people to your castle gates and notify you when I have people here, and then you can take them in. But I do not deserve to be inside yet. Shonar said, fine, go do it. So he would bring people in, and help a lot of people. Now, the interesting thing about this is as he was doing this, the blacksmith was this huge, imposing figure, right? As he became a nicer person, he became less imposing, spiritually superior, but physically, he didn't have this look of a brute about him anymore. So, to make a long story short, there's a lot more to this, but I don't want to make it too long. He shows up to the castle one day and brings some people in. And Shonar says, no, you have to come in this time. I got something for you. He goes, oh, okay. So he brings him into the castle. And he sits him down into this central room with all sorts of tapestries and there's a waterfall in there. And he sees these three people talking. And Shonar goes, do you know those three people? He goes, well, I think one looks like my son, one looks like my daughter, but the other woman, kind of the same age. I don't know who she is. Goes, go over and talk to them. So he comes over and talks to them. He finds out that it is his son and his daughter, and the other young woman is his wife. Because when you're in the spirit world, you look the way you want to look. So his wife looked at the age she wished, maybe 25 or 30 or whatever, right? Because I know when I go there, I'm going to lose my weight, get some hair back, all those things. So he just broke down, right? And they said, we have been waiting for you. And the daughter and the son hugged him and said, we love you, Dad, and we're proud of you, Dad. And the wife said, we have been waiting for you. You have done a great job. We've been told what, Shanar's told us what you've done for people. And so Shanar said, look, why don't you go up a level or two? There's jobs for you to do. Because no, I want to do what I've been doing. He goes, okay. But you can have a house up there. Go there and come back and forth as you see fit. Because you're helping people, and you can help people any place there is. So anyway, that was a long way of saying of how people get out of the dark abyss. Okay, let's take one last question here. What is after the spirit world? Well, so what spirits tell us is that we right now on Earth are in a objective universe, right? We're in the land of objectivity, meaning that things are what they are. We have no control over them. So the wall behind me is a wall. The picture behind me is a picture. I can't change it with my mind. When we go to heaven, it's a subjective universe, meaning that my opinions and my feelings and my creativity and the focus of my mind can change the atmosphere around me. I actually go into a lot of this more in my book, The Spirit Realm. Let me bring this up. Then they say there is a land above, what's it called? The sublime. They don't know what that is. What they say is that you become this greater creature, this greater entity. You always retain your unique idea, your unique personality and character, but you become a part of the whole more. What that is and what dimension that is, no one knows. But so that's a description of what's above, let's say, what we know as the spirit universe. Now, if you're asking about the universe created by God, my answer to that is that there is nothing that we cannot live outside of that universe. And I'm sure everyone's have asked this question. Okay, if God created the universe, what's outside? What's out there where God is? Let's say, right? And I know I'm not saying this very well. And the answer is that we can never know. We cannot exist out of that universe. We are infused with God. We are part of the creatures of God. We are in an aquarium. We cannot exist outside of the aquarium. We logically, the environment is not there. We don't have the encapsulation of living in that environment. Therefore, people, us, right, spirits, our whole life is going to be spent within God's creation. And I do not believe that we can ever leave God's creation, because we're all created for this environment at some state. And that is why I sometimes tell people that say, oh, there's all these conspiracy theories that were used for this, and I don't believe in reincarnation, and and you want to rebel against the spirit world and rebel against God. And I say, well, you know what? You can do that. It's just going to slow you down, but you're never going to escape this. So you might as well get along with the program, understand where you're at, and carve for yourself the best thing that you can carve out. Now, all the spirit world asks for you, they don't demand much. They just want you to be a nice, considerate, selfless person. They're not going to tell you you're going to have to work 24 hours a day. Not that there's time, but they're not going to do that for you. Now, if you want to talk about what's after the spirit world, the spirit universe, when I talk about sublimity, spirits within the levels of heaven around the earth have said that, the levels, they believe. Now, so the, okay, says, could you repeat what you said is after the spirit world, please? Yes, I'll do that right now. So spirits have said, and this is a spirit that's been on the 10th level of heaven. Now, different people have different numbering systems for heaven. They say, yeah, there's all different numbers. There's 3 levels of heaven, 7 levels of heaven, whatever. And we just use this, because it's kind of how you want to do it. But let's say there's 10 levels of heaven. There's certain finite number of level heavens around the earth. They say they think Jesus lives on the 15th level. Now, they said, does that level encompass the solar system, encompass the galaxy? They don't know. But I would think that because Jesus is in charge of 4 other planets besides the earth. And there are other types of spirits on the level of Jesus who control other planets. Now, above, they don't know how many levels of heaven go above that. They said, and they said, and what are these? Are there extra dimensions? Are there extra things that we don't even know about? Because in heaven, when we as a physical spirit go to heaven, there's no time. You see time as an object, past, present, future. You see it more as the higher you go, as the more length of time you see. And there's all these different laws of physics that, because you can move by the speed of thought. There's no speed of light, speed limit in heaven. You just move by the speed of thought. There's no distance. There's absence or presence, right? There's all these things that I go through in my book, The Spirit Realm. Now, they go higher than that. There must be other dimensions, other and more intricate things. And then there's this sublimity, the sublime area, they say. Now, what that is, we're not sure. We do know that you still retain your character, but you become kind of more of a part of a whole. But that's all we can explain to you, because that's all you can figure out. But again, these spirits say, they also tell us that they can't figure out God. And they said, look, you can't figure out God, and even we can't figure out God. You don't die and say, oh, I met God, right? Like these, no, we don't have the intellectual capacity. Even they don't have the capacity to really understand God yet. Now, I don't know if they say that to be nice, and they understand it much better than we do, have a hint of it, but that's what they say. So there are levels above that are probably beyond our imagination. Now, when you think of the universe as being, and I go back and forth. I try to explain people the spirit universe as like in geometrical shapes, right? The circles of heaven around the earth and stuff like that, right? And think about going up and down levels of heaven. But you can also think of it as just as this logical construct that is dense and loaded with data. And yeah, and as you said, maybe the terrorist act. So I mean, this is all up to interpretation, and I believe it's interesting to talk about, but can we really grasp it? Probably not. It's probably something so far beyond us. I mean, just think about just the levels of heaven where you use your mind to create. When Jesus said, yeah, faith can move mountains. Well, it's amazing when you learn about Spiritism, and that's why I go through, is a lot of things he said were quite literal. Faith and willpower and training, you can create mountains. You can move mountains. You can do all these things with your mind in the spirit world. Jesus was stating a fact. He wasn't. So, I mean, this is the really interesting thing. So when you learn about Spiritism, then you reread the New Testament. You're like, oh, okay, that's what he meant. So anyway, I think I've gone almost 10 minutes over my hour. So I want to thank everyone for being with me today. Please hit the bell so you want to be notified when I do live streams. I live stream every Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and hit the subscribe. And if you can, please like and share and tell other people, and go to my sites, learn and study about Spiritism, and always come back and give me any questions you like. God bless all of you. God bless.